So why has Sean moved down here?
Well, we're trying to space out.
Physical distancing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, it's all relative. Oh, I'll give you another one of these for safety.
How you doing? Yes. Both of the above. Yeah.
I think you're running from somewhere.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's a true deal.
Are you big?
I'm just kidding.
So you've been on board now?
Only got 38 and a half.
Where did you come? I passed one of these out to you. They're still with somebody. So,
Yeah, you can be good.
I haven't had, I also met everybody.
Thanks, Ray.
Tim Martin.
Hey, Mayor, how are you? Well, our assigned preacher couldn't come, and I confess I called 3 other people. Give them their chance. And this one's got like, it's going to south to the Antarctic, so there's like 1,600 people on there. You start at Santiago, Chile. Chile's having their problems right now too. We'll see. Well, if you can't go, we'll go put them off. You were going to go to Paris. Sure. I stopped for a year and I had a job, a piece of work in South Africa. I took a flight from DC to South Africa. That's what we stopped to review. And it was on the flight, and they borrowed an American Express card. A new South African airline or something. And I got a really good price on business class. We were all, they opened the door and too much of us were on the, well, no, we didn't do that.
Okay, thank you.
They actually went up business. I hope he got his money back. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's the most expensive teacher.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, they probably started in the first class.
All right,
I am.
let's gather.
Not that we need it.
We are a chatty group today, which is okay. Just a little bit slow getting started, but we all needed a few extra minutes. Welcome. It's not really a vast audience, but you know, in the days of COVID, this isn't bad. So, and we do have, I'm going to have to take my mask off at least to talk. We do have a Zoom audience as well, and some that could be watching, not interacting, but watching by YouTube as well. So we welcome you all. We have a full council here today, and our city manager with us up here on the dais. Let's begin, if we could. Tim Martin is here, who is the exalted ruler of the St. George Interfaith Council.
That's true. I'm glad you appreciate that, Mayor.
And he's here to maybe talk with us for a minute and offer an invocation.
Yeah, I do. I had three issues, 3 points I wanted to make. The first was the senior doctors at IHC right here in St. George invited our Interfaith Council leadership over and gave us an hour's worth of charts and making the point, this was even before we all knew how bad it was, making the point of we all are responsible for helping to control the virus. And so I pass on to them the same thing we passed on to all our members. Please wear your masks, wash your hands, and observe physical distancing. The second item, I was happy to meet Chief Whitehead. We have a task force that was formed in the Interfaith Council to look at racial prejudice and some of the social issues that were going on. This is 3 or 4 weeks ago when it all got started. And I'll read the statement from the task force on racism and other issues. And here's our comment that we're still working on, but this is where it is now from the St. George Interfaith Council. We acknowledge the sin of racism and discrimination in our community, which affects all of us. We plead for forgiveness and apologize to and sympathize with those who suffer from this wrong. We call upon all people to join us in accepting responsibility to transform ourselves and our community by ending racism while moving toward reconciliation within every part of society. And the significance of that is, in doing this, I realize I carry a prejudice that, you know, when you actually have to get down to it, you realize. And so it is something that all of us need to work together. And part of the task force wanted to go look at, well, gee, what about our police forces? Are they contributing to this problem? Are they helping? And I said, well, go find out. So 2 congregations went off and investigated the DSU Police Department and the St. George Police Department. They're still working with the sheriff. But they came back and they said, this is marvelous. The St. George Police Department and the DSU Police Department are wonderful. They have accepted policies that are leading the charge and have participated with the citizens. And so instead of making that part of the issue, we'll be adopting tomorrow at our monthly meeting a letter of thanks to you, Mayor, and to Chief Whitehead and to the DSU Police Department, thanking them for leading the way in how police departments ought to operate and not being part of the problem. So well done. It was fun to meet Chief Whitehead today and DSU. So we're working, you know, the 23 churches that are part of the Interfaith Council are trying to make things better here as well. So thank you for all you're doing. If you'll join me
Thank you,
in
Tim.
a word of prayer. Our Father in heaven, we're so thankful this day for our city council, for the opportunity that we have to gather publicly to discuss those issues that are important to us. We're thankful for the time and the effort that's put forth to make this city function so well. We pray a blessing now upon those who are protecting us. The police, we're mindful of the fires in our community and pray for a blessing to be upon those who are fighting this fire and this heat, that they might be comforted and protected. We ask a blessing upon those who might be impacted by these fires. We're also mindful of this virus that's affecting so many and pray that we might individually and as a group do those things that will keep our area safe and allow us to return to life as normal as it might be. We're thankful for the inspiration that thou provides to our leaders. We pray thy continued inspiration in this meeting, that there'll be an open dialogue, that the items that'll be discussed will be effective through the Zoom and other social media, and that we'll be able to truly understand all that people want to say. We're thankful now for the gifts we have that enable us to live in this wonderful part of the world. We ask thy blessing to be upon all of us, and this we ask in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tim. We appreciate
you.
the Interfaith Council and all you're doing.
Mr. Martin, can we receive a copy of that statement that you read? That was really beautiful.
I can get that to all of you. I'll just email it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would love to.
And we certainly agree with your with the group's assessment of our police department, right, Michelle?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Michelle's assigned to the police departments.
Yeah, as I told Chief Whitehead, there were a couple of members of our task force that were looking to include the police response in our let's go make things better, and they came back saying, wow, we need to thank them as opposed to suggest anything, because they're leading the way. And so well done to all of those.
Thank you. All righty.
Not to delay the pledge, but just while Tim's here, and for the Interfaith Council, I've been reading a lot, listening a lot, thinking a lot about all the turmoil in our country and things that are happening. And I'm not the first one to say this, but our country is deeply rooted in religious freedom. And
Indeed.
we came up from religious teachings, and now more than ever, we need you all to stand up and be bold,
Yeah.
and
And that's
take us back to where we need to be.
And I think it's a tribute to the city of St. George that we're here every week. We're in the Washington County Commission meetings, and giving a prayer is not a big deal, but the visibility and the message that we're sending to the world is that we're still incorporating, the faith community in all that we do. And I think that says an important thing. And appreciate that this task force that developed this statement on racism met in my house. So I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So that was one. Then we had the Episcopal minister. We had the leader of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, the Episcopal minister, and the Presbyterian minister. And we were like in our third meeting before somebody said, well, look at the mix that we have here. Isn't this great? Because in our community, we do have great friendships that are making this faith community succeed and doing things that are making it better,
Right.
or recognizing when things are good. So,
Right, and my point was even more to that task force. We're not, the prayer is important, but we need you more than just for prayers.
yeah, no, and the people in the Interfaith Council love to come because they know you, and
Yeah.
you know them, and so it's working both ways.
But thank you.
And it's not allowed. There are many communities that backed away, said we're not going to do this. And because we have the Interfaith Council, and they are given guidelines, we're not here to preach. We're here just to offer the prayer. So it's working great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you. And I've got to run. So.
Okay. Michelle, would you lead us in the pledge?
I will. All arise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michelle, do you have another announcement you need to make?
I do. So I just pulled up the agenda on my computer and saw the date. It's July 16th. So shout out to my mom and dad. Today is their 55th wedding anniversary. But last year, on their anniversary, I was diagnosed with cancer and had to ruin their anniversary for them. This year on their anniversary, I'm cancer-free. So it's a great gift and very happy. Love them both immensely. They won't be watching this, but I'll make them go watch it on YouTube later. But love you both.
Congratulations to your mom and dad and to you.
Thank you.
It's amazing. What a year, huh?
Good year.
Holy cow. All right. Let's see. Adam, any changes to the agenda or comments that you would make at this time? on
No,
the
no
agenda?
changes today.
Okay, then let's go directly to the consent calendar. Are
Any
there-
items that you'd like to pull off for individual discussion? We've got 8 items today.
I thought this was an exciting consent calendar. It's got Curly Hollow Park, Snake Hollow Bike Park, Rimrock Wash Trail design. The drainage isn't as exciting, but
But we need it.
we do need it.
Yeah. Any questions or ones you'd want to pull off?
I would just mention, since Curly Hollow Park came up, we're having a neighborhood meeting next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. at Tonnequin Park, South Pavilion, and that's to meet with neighbors and talk about, things they'd like to see in their park.
Kind of a first step, right? Yeah.
Tonnequin Park, South Pavilion.
Down by the playground. Okay, council, if you're so inclined, I'd entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve was by Michelle and seconded by Jimmy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you, council. Then let's talk solid waste. We have some visitors here tonight, and so we'll turn the time over to Faye and his guests as well. And thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having us on the agenda. My name is Faye Reber. I'm the attorney for the Solid Waste Special Service District. And also in the audience, we have our chairman, Chairman Shane McDonald, who's also on the Ivans City Council. And then we have a representative from Republic Services, Reese DeMille, is also here. In case you have any particular questions to ask, you can ask those folks. What I'm talking about relates to items 2 and 3 on your agenda tonight. They're both kind of the same thing, so I'm just going to speak to them generally. The district is coming to the end of 3 important contracts. We've had a 10-year contract between the district and Republic for supplying waste collection services throughout the county. We've also had a 10-year agreement with the city whereby the city would be responsible for billing and collection of its residences and then funneling that money onto the district. And then the third agreement was an agreement we entered into 5 years ago for recycling, initially with Dixie Waste, and then that contract has now been assumed by Republic. But that agreement also is expiring. So as we've been contemplating what to do at the end of this contractual period, we considered several alternatives. One alternative was to purchase the equipment and do the work ourselves. We considered going out to bid, and then we considered extending our current contract through negotiation, hoping that we could get a favorable rate for our residents, which we have ultimately done. We selected that third option mainly because we felt like we've been working with this particular contractor for some 10, 15, 20 years. They know the lie of the land, so to speak. They know they have to go up to Kolob and Enterprise and all those different places in the winter months. We've had a good working relationship with them over the years, and we feel like we've been able to negotiate a good price for a 10-year period for our residents. So ultimately, that's what we're looking to do, is to extend our current contract for an additional period of 10 years. So what we're looking to do tonight is to have the council approve, first of all, that agreement between the district and Republic for an additional 10-year period. we're looking for the council to also approve the mayor signing the new billing and collection agreement whereby St. George will continue to be responsible for billing and collection, just like we have been. And I forgot to mention that rolled into that first contract is also the recycling. Recycling and basic waste collection are in that same agreement with Republic Services. So I've passed out a little, just a brief summary that kind of summarizes some of the important points of these agreements. As you'll notice, it's weekly curbside collection, just like it is now. Residents get 2 containers, just like they do now. We also have weekly collection of bulky waste items, like we do now. And then residents, if they have additional waste, can haul that additional waste to the landfill free of charge, all like we do now. And then for those services, we have some, I've broken down the fee for the current year. Currently, what we're paying is $12.10 for those residents who don't have recycling. In year 1, if they continue not to have recycling, that would go to $12.40. And then by year 10, that would go up to $14.12. And that increase is basically a 2.5% annual increase on the amount that we pay to Republic, which will start out at $6.90. Now, for those residences who also would like to avail themselves of recycling, we can also provide those services. The amount we're paying now, you can see, is $2.94. The city adds on 19 cents for a total rate now of $15.23. In year 1, the amount that would be paid to Republic goes up to $4.91, assuming that we fall within that Tier 1 pricing. And I think we've talked about that at the board meetings enough to know that you understand how that tier pricing works. In order for that tier pricing to work, we need to have a total of 26,000 residences in the recycling program. We now have approximately 50,000. So in order not to meet that Tier 1, we'd have to have a very large number of residences opt out of the recycling, which we don't foresee happening. So again, at that year 1 level, the rate would be $18.25. And then by year 10, for those who wanted to recycle, the total rate would be $21.19. The recycling program, as I mentioned, is an opt-out program. We originally came up with the idea that all residents would be required to opt out regardless of what they had done 5 years ago. But we felt like that might be confusing for those residents who opted out 5 years ago. They may not get the word, they may, and they may fail to opt out again and be locked in and be angry and come knocking on your doors. So we decided that what we would do is allow those folks who had previously opted out to remain opted out automatically. They're sort of grandfathered in. So, yeah, grandfathered out, exactly.
So the ones that are opted out already, they don't have to opt out again?
They do not have to opt out again. They can opt in if they want, and the ones who are now presently in can opt out if they want. There's a 90-day opt-out period running from September 1 to November 30th, which will be coordinated between the district and the city of St. George, all the other communities. The district has allocated about $75,000 for educating residents and providing assistance to cities to get that word out. And I think that's going to be key, is to make sure that residents understand the options and what they have to do if they don't want recycling or if they do want recycling.
Faye, was there any more talk on people who opt out that may have to move and they move within the county? And
We've decided about the only way we can do this administratively is for anybody moving into the county, let's say from California or outside of the county, they would automatically be included in recycling.
Okay.
If a person who had opted out in St. George, for example, then built a new house in St. George, that new residence would then be like any other new residence, and he would be in the program at that point. So that's kind of where we came with that. The only way somebody would be able to, if they are in the program if they're out of the program, to remain out would be to move to a community where there is no recycling, New Harmony, Enterprise, that area. The reason we did that is because we're trying to encourage people to recycle. It saves us landfill space, which is very expensive. We think it's, we think it's the right thing to do in terms of conserving our resources and managing our stewardship here on this earth. So we're trying to encourage people to recycle, and so that was part of the thinking, is that ultimately would get more and more people recycling.
Faye, when you do the campaign to teach people about recycling and to invite them in, is there going to be some education about what is recyclable? Because I know that's a constant issue.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a campaign that we should be doing every few years. I don't know.
Yeah, Shane maybe can answer that, but as it's coming up, the answer to that is yes. That's one thing that we're going to have to do a better job of, is educating the public as to what items are in fact recyclable.
Yeah.
So they don't put in plastic bags, they don't put in glass, they don't put in the things that are not recyclable.
And like their yogurt cups, they have
Yeah.
to clean them, and people just don't know that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
maybe
I don't think they do.
Shane can explain what the district...
Yeah, that is ultimately the plan. I'm Shane McDonald. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir a little bit. We've talked many times throughout meetings, but I know this is for the public. But yeah, we do have a plan. In fact, we met with our directors today on how we're going to proceed forward with an advertising program. We want to pitch it forward that it's a positive thing, that it's a good thing, also for those that have previously opted out, that they can opt in. If they opted out before, that will carry over, but they do have the opportunity to opt into the program and participate that way. So a lot will have to do with education. We're trying to work with Republic on that education as well. But our percentages of recycling have gone way up since we've started utilizing Republic, which is a really good thing. It all goes down to the MRF, and the best part is it doesn't go into our landfill that is not able to be recycled.
And I think obviously that'll be part of the education too, right? Because there's been a
Absolutely.
negative message, through the community that the recycling wasn't being recycled. So sharing that it is, I think, will be really encouraging for people.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? Again, what we're asking the council to do tonight is to approve the district entering into its contract with Republic, and then also authorizing the mayor to sign the billing and collection agreement. And then when all of the communities have approved these agreements, the district will then execute all the billing and collection agreements, as well as our contract with Republic, and then we'll provide fully executed copies back to the cities and towns of everything. And we anticipate that'll be like maybe the last week of August or so. So we've been to like 7 or 8 communities. They've all approved so far, so it's been a good reception.
Council, any other questions or comments?
Do you want these in 2 separate motions,
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, but looks like Jimmy's got some.
I have a question for Trevor. Trevor, I'm just asking for a friend. If someone in St. George was opted out and they moved within St. George, what would happen? Is it that hard to not have them in?
No,
I mean, it would still be the same for Republic because they're still out, and the new resident of their new home would probably be in, right? Because they're going to move from California.
right.
I'm just really concerned about some of the things we've taken the beating on before. And I've talked to Reese about this. Even with an opt-in program, most people choose to recycle. But there are a few that, 60% even in opt-in programs. But there's still that segment of society that does not like to be told what to do, including myself. And they want to feel like they're doing it for the right reasons. So I'm just really concerned about this. If I opt out, I'm never going to be able to leave my home because I'll be stuck recycling. I recycle.
Recycles.
You don't even have to use the can.
I recycle, and my children think I'm nuts. Usually it's the young people. My children think I'm nuts, but I recycle.
I didn't see anything in the contract that talks about specifically about if a resident within our city boundaries have already opted out, and if they move to a different residence in our cities, that they could not still be opted out. Everything talked about if they're from an outside excluded area, whether it's another state, New Harmony, Enterprise, or other arrangements, if they move into a city that is opted into the program, at that point they can't opt out. So if a resident, from my understanding and how we have been conducting it, is if a resident moves from, say, your home, you move to downtown St. George, you're still within the city limits of St. George, you still have the arrangement with the city of St. George, and you opted out in your old residence, that would carry forward into your new location, but the person that moved into your home out there would not take your opt-out program.
Is that correct?
If that's not correct.
Is that correct, Sean?
That's correct,
and
okay.
Faye?
Well,
Okay.
let me just tell you.
Probably
why-
have the attorneys.
Let me.
It's okay. I was just asking for a friend. I don't know that we need to explain it any further.
Yeah. Let me just explain why we did it the way we did it. One way, if you start drawing that kind of a line, then you have a harder time with people who are outside the city of St. George moving into the city of St. George, if they've opted out in Laverkin, for example, or people even outside the whole area that move in. Anytime you start drawing lines, it's difficult to defend just on the other side of that line. So that's one reason. And let me just say that there is a contractual provision which would prevent this from happening, and that it comes in the billing and collection agreement, which adopts by reference the recycling opt-out rules and guidelines. Number 7 of that says, new people, i.e. people who move from outside the district to a residence in an included area, or people who move from within the district to a new residence in an included area, regardless of a prior election to opt out, shall be automatically included in the recycling program. So that language, if you looked at it closely, I think would run counter to what Trevor just said.
Okay.
I mean, that would be the district's interpretation of that, and that was the intent of that language. Now, if the city wants to change that,
Well, couldn't we just within our city space have an option for someone to come to Trevor and make an appeal?
That would be a very cumbersome process. That's why we did the process that we have right now.
Yeah.
Which is not what Faye is describing. So I would say in that case, we have an ordinance in place.
Okay.
That's the law. So we're going to have to get the agreement then to comport with that.
So
Because
this is really going to be on a very minor scale. I mean, this is the fly poop in the pepper that we're picking out. So I'd love to strike that sentence, that one that says that they can't stay opted out. I mean, it's going to be minimal. I mean, first of all, they have to be someone that's opted out, and then it has to be someone that's going to move.
Within the city.
within the city, yeah.
Yeah,
Which is
so-
different than in the whole district. And so also we made a commitment, those of you that were on the council at the time, remember how contentious this was, to say that if you opted out, that if you moved somewhere else in the city, you remained opted out. As Trevor explained, whoever moved into your home, if they had not opted out in time, then they're in. And so we should carry that commitment forward because we made that commitment to our residents.
So just to make sure, because you're an attorney, you're agreeing with me, right?
I am agreeing with you,
Okay.
but I have never disagreed with you.
Write that down.
ultimately, the burden to sort through all of this lies with the city. We were trying to come up with something that was fairly easy to administer, to save the city staff from having to interpret all these different situations.
Right.
And that's why we came up with the rule we came up with. But again, ultimately, if the city wants to do something different, I think the district obviously would be willing to take a look at something different.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be pretty minuscule. I mean,
Yeah, we just want to make sure that
minimum.
we don't reach that level where enough people have opted out that we don't qualify for the tier one
Right.
pricing, for example,
Right.
which would have to go a long, long ways to get there. So I don't think that's.
But we're already allowing people that are already opted out to stay opted out, so it just kind of seems like an extension. That would be people that
Move.
are opted out and move should be opted out. And I don't think that'll cause an increase in people not recycling. In fact, some of those people may decide when they move, hey, well, I proved my point. I'm going to go ahead and recycle now.
So I think what we'd be looking at is a rule then that if a person is opted out in any community, that election to opt out would still be valid if they move to a new residence within that
That
city.
community.
That's how we'd probably.
That's how we would try to handle it in St. George, in my mind.
Yeah.
I think that's how we,
You think that'll work? I think that would work.
I think Jimmy's right. It's
Yeah.
going to be fairly minimal.
Yeah. I think we can go back and make that change to that particular paragraph that I just read.
Perfect.
So I guess bottom line is I'm hoping the council will feel okay about approving it, subject to making that change.
I think we.
Right.
I
Oh,
can
yeah, for
make
sure.
I can make those changes, get it to Sean, make sure he reviews it and approves of it, and then we can get signatures on it.
And just to be real clear, so year one, total price with recycling, say that one more time for me, just so because I'm looking at all these numbers.
15, 20, no, 18, 25.
Year
And the-
one, 1825. Now, there's a couple assumptions in there. One
Based on the
is
recycling numbers.
we're
It's going
based
to
on-
vary.
that we're a tier one. And
Right.
then by get to year 10, that price of 2119, that assumes that the city does not increase their administrative fee and the district doesn't increase their administrative fee. So it assumes that the administrative fees stay what they are now.
It's what we're paying Republic essentially.
So
Yeah,
year
exactly.
one to year 10, $2.
Yeah, about a little bit less than $2.
Okay.
And
I
our-
think that's an important distinction.
And our plan for those 10 years would be to take that recycled material to the Las Vegas
Oh.
area. Is that correct for the 10 years?
To that MRF there. That's where it's already going, right? Yep.
And with our contracts, they're required to take it down there. They cannot bring it to our landfill.
Actually, from year 1 to year 10 for recycling, it goes up $2.94. That's $2.94.
Okay. And then, but for the total price for garbage and recycling together,
Yeah, for garbage and recycling together, if you look down there.
$2.94. That's what the plus $2.94 means?
Okay, year 1, the total amount's $18.25.
Right.
Year 10, $21.19. That is an increase of $2.94.
Okay, that's what,
Between year 1 and year 10.
okay, so that's what the, in parentheses, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Just wanted to clarify that.
Trevor?
If I could also. Is that on? Nope. If I could also just really quickly on a little note, it's a minor fraction, but I'm an accountant, so I'm going to correct it. On the spreadsheet that was provided by Mr. Reber, our administrative cost is not 19 cents, it's 18 cents. Anyway. And also, I provided you trying to understand the contract and the potential of the 10-cent increase annually in the administrative cost. Maybe the district has the 2.5% increase. I tried to do a simplified spreadsheet. I didn't combine them, but those increases from the administration standpoint on the district, as well as ours, which I haven't estimated any increases, are all subject to the board's approval by not only the district, their rate, administrative costs, but then obviously our increases would be subject to you guys approving that in the future.
So $1 would be that over 10 years.
Well, not necessarily. Right now it's saying 10 cents annually, but it could be changed if the district felt like they needed more money or
Right.
less money. It's always subject to their,
But, yeah.
right.
Okay.
Up to their board and this, for the city, this council.
Yeah, perfect.
But I just wanted to note that. I wanted to show that so I could kind of get an idea of what the cost may be based upon what I was seeing in the contract. So, and I provided that to the district's finance director as well on that. And I talked with Sean briefly, and there's some other things we want to look at on the agreement before it's approved and adopted. One of them, for example, was the hardship notification that we have worked on during the COVID issue. That may be something, talking with Sean, to also include into that equation. And just a little bit of note also, we do have owners that own apartments or other complexes that opt out, and we do have some of their tenants come in and request to be part of the opt-out or to be part of the recycling program. We allow them, even though it's not the owner's not paying that bill, we allow that tenant, if they choose to opt in for their recycling program. However, I have learned that when that tenant leaves, we have kept it on place in the residence location, even though a new tenant comes in and they may not be opted out. So I am going to recommend to my staff, based upon the agreement, that if an owner chooses to opt out, and we do have a tenant that is paying the bill and they want to be in, allow them to have recycling, to pay for that service, but when they leave, that service goes away with that tenant. It creates a little bit of an administrative thing because we're dropping cans off and picking cans up and some stuff like that. I don't know if that's something that we ought to look at from an administrative standpoint. They are being paid or charging for the blue can, but like I said, we're trying to get as many people also into the program to participate in the recycling because we think it's a good service. And I didn't want, if a tenant wanted it and their owner chose not to, that they couldn't still have that service if they were paying for it.
So honestly, I'm not sure. I totally understand Jimmy's point with individuals, but to me as a business owner, if you're a business owner of a tenant complex, I think that you should be opting in just automatically as a business owner. When we know that this is what we're trying to do in the community is convince people to take part in something that helps the whole community. As an individual citizen, the right to opt out seems right, but as a business owner who is affecting a bunch of other people by making that decision, it's more of a community decision. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I'm just I'm not sure why we're letting whole businesses opt out.
It doesn't happen very often. A lot of times it happens because of space, limited space on the property, where you already have 2 gray cans for garbage. Now you throw in an extra recycling can, and when they built the complexes, sometimes they just wasn't set up for those things. So like I said, it doesn't happen very often, and there are some locations that is flat out they can't have curbside pickup, whether it's garbage or recycling, because it wasn't designed as such. And so the district has basically tagged those areas as not part of this program because they don't have the ability to pick up off their curbside pickup trucks that service. So, and they're not part of this opt-out program. They've already been deemed by the district as not being part of the program, is my understanding. So,
thank you, Trevor. Faye, any other comments, especially
What I was going to say is the contract that we're asking you to approve, the billing and collection agreement, it says it incorporates the opt-out rules as they are now drafted as part of the agreement. But then there's a sentence after that, it says, or otherwise agreed to by the parties. I think that allows each city to have their own opt-out rules. So my suggestion, or my hope, I guess, would be that you'd approve the agreement subject to Sean and city staff drafting up such opt-out rules as the city of St. George would like to see in place, and approve it subject to those rules being in place. And then they can have their discussions, and city can determine how it wants to handle those things. But again, keep in mind that from the district standpoint, we'd like to see as many people in recycling as possible, save landfill space and all of those kinds of things. So,
thank you. We could talk a little bit more about your thing, Danielle, too. I think it's good points on both sides, but if it's relatively minor, then maybe it's okay the way it is for now. I don't know. That is maybe more of a St. George philosophy that we could talk about as a mayor and council.
The one other question I have is in talking with the district a little bit, and I appreciate their willingness to help out, because I think a lot of the educating of what can be recycled needs to improve and continue more so, particularly at this campaign. But one of the questions or one of the concerns I have, I love the 90 days, but our general communication to these consumers of recycling is going to be through our utility bills. But because of the 9-day windows, it really only allows us to get 2 bills out to a resident. I'm sure it's intended to have 3 months, but because of our billing cycles where we do every week and we do it once a month for that cycle, it really, by the time we start it in September, end it in November, or really a cycle is going to get only 2 billings during that time.
So 2 notices.
My anticipation is starting that campaign early so we can get ahead of it, so people still will go in that window, and I'm assuming that will be okay, at least get the notification out and then not having the window open until September 1st through the 30th and comply with what the arrangements were and working with the district as best possible to try and help with that campaign. But I just wanted to throw that out there.
Start early.
Yeah, start early. You don't care, do you, Faye?
There's no problem for the district staff
Yeah.
to start early.
Yeah, start early.
Okay, good idea. Any other questions? Or Sean, do you have any comments from the legal department?
If you're so inclined to approve it tonight, then we will, subject to legal review, we'll get that taken care of.
Perfect.
That's with the simplest language possible.
Will that catch it all if we just say subject to legal review?
Yes.
Jimmy?
Jeez, I don't want to be the one that gets the first phone call. No, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the, what do we approve in the yeah, let's approve the resolution with the Special Service District and Republic Services to impose 10-year residential waste collection agreement as outlined, subject to legal review.
Second.
Motion was by Jimmy, seconded by Brian. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Greg, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Now, on this, the second one is as Faye said, is the resolution to approve the city entering into an agreement with Washington County Special Service District Number 1 for municipal billing and collection of residential waste. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, that is? Well, we'll just do them both that way. Okay. Is that okay, Michelle?
Yes.
Is that okay? Did you second it, Greg?
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
We always need legal review.
That's right. Got to keep them in business.
Right.
Any discussion on that motion? All in favor, starting with Danielle this time, say aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Shane, thank you. Reese, thank you, Faye. Appreciate you.
Don't bill us for a full hour on that, Sean.
Faye, because you weren't here quite long enough, will you just say what you can about the process for advertising for a new director?
Yeah, basically what's happened is our district manager has submitted a letter of resignation. So we're now in the process of advertising for that position. We've contacted the H&R person for the county. Jonathan Little. And Jonathan has put together a job description. We looked for a job description and couldn't find one in the file, so we developed one. And that is now currently being advertised. I think it'll be advertised through August 10th, 9th. I'm glad Shane is here to kind of, I'm like a whale swimming around and little fishes are picking up all the little pieces around. Anyway. And then we have our board meeting on the 10th. So the idea is we'll come to our board meeting, advise the Administrative Control Board of the number of applicants we have the board determine how the interviewing process will work, if they want the executive committee to do that, if they want to appoint a special committee to do that. And then as we get ready to approve that person, we may need to call a special board meeting for the board to do that, because I think it's a function of the board to approve the hiring of the district manager. So we anticipate that that would happen maybe towards the 1st of September. Give us 3 weeks or so to do the interviewing, the vetting, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where we are on that.
Thank you, Faye. Appreciate the update. I know several of the council members had questions on that. Thank you for your email that
Yeah.
apprised us, and thank you for that.
All right, thanks
Okay.
very much, appreciate it.
Thank you. Adam, I think we're on to number 4.
All right, council, should we talk RAP grants? We've got Michelle Graves here, and we'll have her discuss this with us if you want her to, or if you're familiar enough with it that you could make a motion and we could move along, however you'd like.
Danielle?
I'm pretty familiar with it. I can make
Familiar with it.
Both of you get up and rap.
Yeah.
We are rap
I was
artists.
hoping there would be a rap. I can't do it, but you guys can try. Any comments?
I don't know any rap. I know the whole Schoolhouse. I know a few Schoolhouse Rock.
I know those.
Songs.
I'm
Still.
only a bill.
Yes. I know that one. Yeah.
Any comments that you or Michelle would make? I know you've both been involved, and Greg's been involved in the past. But
I would just make a comment about how important our art groups are. I mean, you know, art brings us so much joy. It tells our stories. It shows our community value. It starts dialogue. I mean, art just does so much. I remember Kathy and Gary Thane coming home from a mission. They had been in Ivory Coast, I believe. And she said that there's very little, actually she said there's no art. There's no art to be seen anywhere that she went. And she told me that she pulled into St. George and she drove down Diagonal and she drove down Main Street, and she said she just started crying and she couldn't stop crying. And she said it was the art. You know, she goes, just that feeling of beauty that we've created in our space and how it affected her spirit and her emotion. And I've just never forgotten her telling me that.
I thought it was the spider that scared her.
It was the spider, and yeah. No, it wasn't the spider. You know what, Mayor, though, that's another thing. The spider is an interesting thing because art is subjective, right? And so even if you don't like it, it starts dialogue because you share emotion about it and feelings and some things you love and some things you don't, and art's great that way. So I'm glad we have it. And if you look through this list of all these organizations, we're getting even, you know, new forms of art in our community that are fantastic. The Film and Media Alliance is pretty new, and they've really taken off and are working hard to have that be an art form that's accessible in St. George. So we're becoming known for our art, and I think that's a blessing for us as people who live here. It's a blessing for our visitors, and it's a blessing for our economy. So.
Thank you, Michelle. You're on an art board, so.
I am. My only question is, why are we distributing it in 4 different quarters?
So what we're doing with many of the capital outlay type expenditures that we've got for this fiscal year, where we have the ability to spread those out, what that does is, given the uncertainties that we're looking at financially and the revenues that may be coming in, it's just basically a backstop to make sure that we don't overextend ourselves. And so this is not unique to the RAP funds. We're doing this with many of our expenses like this. We actually talked about it for the Doctors Volunteer Clinic, but we felt like the amount was enough that, hey, we'll be fine, you know, but where this one gets in, you know, $250,000,
Right.
it makes sense just to spread it out a little bit. We should be fine, but, you know, things are still really, you know.
A little tenuous.
Yeah.
And do all these arts organizations know that it'll be coming in?
Yeah,
quarterly?
we changed the application this year, and we asked them to specify when it would be best for them to receive it, and we asked that they consider doing it in quarterly installments. So most did, and you can see, I think you have the latest document. We had to redistribute a little bit, but it's almost all based on the guidelines that they provided in their grants of how they wanted the monies dispersed.
Sounds good.
And then I can just point out maybe one more one or two more little points.
Please.
We were able to distribute funds to all but one group that asked, and the only reason that we didn't for that group is because they were a startup, and we just felt like their guidelines were a little too preliminary. They weren't really established at all. It was more conceptual, and so we just thought we'd watch them this year and see if they get a little more established. But we were able to allocate money to everyone, and as you can see, a lot was requested, but everyone received something. And then the other thing that I'll point out is that there are, I think, 12 groups that receive kind of like a tier one, $25,000, and we did request a little bit less for them just so that we could accommodate and help propel some of these other groups forward. So kind of everyone, has that little bit of cut this year because of COVID expenses, that we scaled back a little bit. So those numbers reflect that, but I think it was done in a very judicial and fair way to everyone that had applied.
So I sat on the Arts Council for a few years. Mayor, you were on it for a few years as well.
I was.
And I remember the days that you'd try to decide of how to distribute these funds was the hardest day of the year of that council, because these organizations, all of them are so deserving. There's just so many good organizations in St. George. And as a city council, one of our jobs is to help promote and preserve the culture of St. George. And I think there's no better way to do it than through this. There's so many amazing things that people do here. So I really like this. Just wanted to.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Well, all that said, anything else, Michelle?
No, I'll just echo what Danielle said. I mean, the more I sit in some of these councils and the more that I'm involved, the more it just fuels me to want to see more of it in St. George. We're doing great things, and we have so many groups that want to do so much more, and I think giving them a little leg up is really helpful in propelling the arts forward. So I'm grateful that we were able to do this. And actually, Danielle was surprised because I guess she has been in these meetings before, but we were able to come to conclusions pretty quickly and universally. We have a great council that kind of splits up all of these groups and keeps their eye on them, so they kind of have background knowledge of how these entities are moving forward. And so we were able to get some really educated feedback on how to help them, and we feel like we did that in a really great way. So if you're happy with it, we're thrilled with it. So thank you for funding it.
Thank you, Michelle. I'd entertain a motion, council, if you're so inclined.
I'll make a motion that we approve the RAP grant awards to local art groups.
Second.
Have a motion by Danielle and a second by Michelle to approve the RAP grant awards as presented. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Please thank the Arts Commission for their work.
Thank you so much.
All righty.
Okay, council, item number 5 is for a project that we've been planning for a while. This is a widening of River Road in the vicinity of Riverside down to 1450. And we've got a number of properties that need to be purchased in order to complete that project, and so we need council approval to be able to authorize staff to move forward on those purchases. And if there are any questions, I believe the city engineer, Jay Sandberg, is on the Zoom call. Otherwise, if there aren't any questions, then I believe it's ready for approval.
Council, I think you know what this project is, right? It's the widening there between Riverside and 1450, which accommodates some dual left turn lanes, one going on to 1450, one going on to Riverside, as I recall, if I'm saying that right, Adam.
That's
and
correct.
And a little bit of, that means between those two streets, it means you kind of have a little bit of a, what would you call it, kind of a buffer, an extra lane for a minute.
Some acceleration.
Yeah, exactly. Any questions on this?
And I would just point out the note in the background that the city's portion is only about 7%,
which is very nice.
which is great.
River Road, Riverside Drive, that is a dangerous intersection.
Yeah, it's so hard to get through there at peak times, and
It's crazy.
It's blurry.
Yeah,
It's blind.
Yeah.
Can't
Anybody
see.
who have anything else to say?
Go for it. See what
Fire
happens.
station.
I'll make a motion to approve the property purchases along River Road between Riverside Drive and 1450 South.
Second.
The motion was by Michelle, seconded by Danielle. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. You have your marching orders, Adam.
All right. Wonderful. Then item number 6 is to amend a portion of city ordinance dealing with alcohol licensing. So there's a little provision in our code that says when we get to 3 or fewer available alcohol licenses that we would do some public noticing. It doesn't really feel like that's a necessary provision in our ordinance at this point. And so we would just recommend to council that that be amended so that it's more consistent with the rest of our business licensing. We do have some additional changes that will likely come to the council in the next month, perhaps, on the alcohol licensing portion of our code. We'll discuss those with you before in a work session. This one, though, there's no state law that requires this type of a notice, and so staff would recommend just eliminating that requirement.
All for simplifying things, but council, any comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance repealing section 335 subsection E from the application for license in the alcohol licensing code.
Second.
Motion by Michelle with a second by Greg. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Michelle, say aye.
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 I got 5 ayes out of that. Thank you. I just have to mix it up a little bit. That motion carries unanimously. Adam, anything else? I don't have any appointments tonight.
Nope.
Any reports, Adam, from you, first of all?
No, not tonight.
Okay. We will not need a closed meeting tonight. We might in the future on a property issue, but we don't tonight. So,
And just a reminder, we've got the next 2 weeks off.
correct.
August
Remember?
6th, though, will likely be a
Big meeting.
a long one.
Where you're.
With dinner included?
We could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, we
If we're
certainly
going to be
could do
here
that.
hours.
We will.
We can make those arrangements. If we wanted to maybe plan on arriving around 4:30ish, we could do
Well,
that.
you should be. I want to go. August 6th, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, would be our next meeting. Okay. Don't do it. Yeah, if you're out of town with your family, you better stay. Danielle, any reports?
I don't have any reports, thank you.
We haven't had some meetings this month because it's July, so like
Yeah.
DTEC was not held yesterday. But do you have any, Jimmy? I don't have any.
I don't.
Brian? Gregory? Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Michelle, second by Danielle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all. And happy Pioneer Day, since we won't get a chance to say that. Appreciate all you do and take a little time off. I hope you all get to. We don't,